name is Anthony. I am the partnership advisor here from AMO. This webinar is going to be really geared towards the current medical students as well as graduates that are applying for the U.S. residency match. So this is going to be kind of a brief introduction to what AMO is, what we do. I'll discuss some of the things about like the match timeline. I will also discuss like a quick demo of the site just so you guys have a brief understanding of what it looks like, how to apply and search for rotations. And then we will host a Q&A section at the very end where I have already collected some questions, but if you have any questions for me as well, please leave them in the Q&A and we will answer those live for everybody here. And this webinar is recorded. So if you aren't able to stay for the entire time, don't worry. Everybody that did sign up is going to get a copy of this recording once it is completed. So let us get started here. So for anybody that isn't familiar with what AMO is, we are a platform that helps connect medical students and graduates with attending U.S. clinical rotations. This is going to really help you, with your goal if your plan is to apply for the U.S. residency match, or if you just want to get some experience in the U.S. as a either medical student or a graduate. Now, just to kind of briefly touch about, what are some of the benefits of doing a U.S. clinical rotation? Well, for really the first one is going to be enhancing your CV. If you really wanted to apply for the match, you need to have a strong CV that has, all of your relative experience, maybe some research, personal statements, all of your information is going to be listed on that CV. Secondly, practicing and strengthening your medical English. I understand here that maybe not everybody's first language is English. So that is something that you can always practice with the doctors, the patients, just learning that kind of English terminology to really hone in on your skills and better prepare you for the interviews that are going to happen during that matching period. Another benefit is getting those U.S. letters of recommendation. These are probably going to be the most vital and one of the most important things that you can get out of any AMO clinical rotation. Another benefit is enhancing your network. If you don't know any doctors in the U.S., this is really going to get you a good way to get your foot in the door, essentially. So meeting other, doctors, trainees that are attending a rotation as well that are, having the same goal as everybody here is, planning on applying for that matching period. So you have someone that you can kind of rely upon, maybe ask questions, and even become maybe a later mentor. Another benefit is practicing and preparing for your useful skills on the USMLE. This is going to include step 1, step 2, and even step 3. So these are really going to be important for those as well. Another useful benefit is obtaining school credit. I'm not going to talk too much about that because that's not the purpose of this webinar, but that is a possibility if for those that are still current medical students that maybe want to complete any possible core or elective credit for your universities through a rotation abroad in the U.S. Now, as we just kind of talk about more about the timeline of things, really focusing on getting those strong letters of recommendation is going to be really vital when it comes to applying for the match. Ideally, you would most likely want to complete, either your USMLE steps first, or maybe do rotations first, just so that you get those letters out of the way. There's really no set way on how you need to do it, but as long as you get those done before you actually start applying for the match, is going to be what's most important. Like I said before, you can earn a letter of recommendation from any of our AMO rotations. They are going to be based on merit, so you do still have to technically earn them, but you can earn them by participating, showing up on time, being professional, and also asking for that letter. You can't attend a rotation and expect them to write that letter for you. You have to make sure that you ask that preceptor. Now, we do also offer different types of letters of recommendation through these rotations. Most of them are going to be on the personal letterhead of that physician, but we do offer some on the hospital as well as university letterheads as well. And there is, when it comes to the matching period, they do want to see letters of recommendation written within 2 years of applying. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to attend all of your rotations within those 2 years of applying. They just have to be updated within those 2 years. So if you were planning on applying for, say, this year's match before the deadline in September, you can use a rotation that you attended 4 years ago. You just have to get that letter updated within 2 years of that matching cycle. So if you wanted to do that, that is a possibility. I have seen maybe early medical students that have attended rotations in their early years and use those same letters that they got updated for their matching period, maybe 5 or even 6 years down the road. Now, I'd say probably the most important slide is just discussing what the actual match rates are, just so that everybody has a better idea of, what are we kind of working with here. So if you guys are familiar with the 2022 match rate, and this does come from the residency match report that they send out every year, so everybody does have access to this, but about 58.1% of non-US IMGs were able to match into residency, and about 61.4% of US citizens were able to match. Now, if you compare that to from our survey, every year post-match, we have a survey that we send out to those that have attended AMO rotations, and we just ask them, like, did you match this year, yes or no? And out of that survey, about 80.6% of those that have attended rotations said that they were able to match that year. So that is a very huge difference. You can see it is about 22% for non-US IMGs. So that 22% difference really shows that the rotations that you can attend through AMO are really going to help you when it comes to matching into the specialty that you're looking for. They do offer those personalized letters of recommendation. They aren't, generic or copied and pasted for every individual. You are going to get a specific personalized letter based on what you did during the rotation, not what other people have done. So just want to keep that in mind for everybody here. Now, also with that timeline, it really just comes to planning ahead. If you are planning on attending a rotation within the next couple of months, you definitely should get started on that process now. It does take time to plan out these rotations. We tend to recommend applying at least 6 months in advance. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to, wait that 6 months. You can technically apply a little bit earlier, but just bear with me that every rotation is first come, first serve, and there's usually only a handful of seats offered per month. So if you apply for a rotation and somebody else books it, that person is going to get that seat, and you're going to be left without having to find a rotation, and you're going to have to find a different option. So always plan ahead. We have rotations available up until, I believe, June of 2025. So if you really want to plan, 2 years in advance, you can. We have that availability up. So if you want to start that process as soon as you wanted to, if you already know which month and year you want to attend a rotation, you could definitely go ahead and do that. Now, you also have to keep in mind of the visa wait times as well. If you are requiring a visa, we do offer visa support when it comes to the B1/B2 visitor visa. And the wait times are going to vary depending on where you are in the world. I have seen some countries from 7 days to some countries that are longer than a year. So you really do have to check the wait times. There is a link down here at the bottom that you can always check the visa wait times for those specific visa types, and that'll help you kind of decide when can you actually attend a rotation based on where you're from. If the wait times are longer than your current country versus like a nearby country, it is possible to go to that different embassy. You don't have to be in your home country. You can always do it in a different third party country. So that is a possibility. And also just making sure that you plan your travel arrangements early. I'm sure everybody is, understand that the closer you get to a date of when you plan to travel, the more expensive the trip becomes. Having to find flights, find housing, the prices are always going to skyrocket the closer you get. So the earlier that you start scheduling those kind of preparations and those accommodations, the easier it's going to be on your wallet. Now, when you do start signing up for AMO, you create your account, your profile, you're going to be assigned to one of our advisors. You can see here, my face is on there. And as an advisor, it's really my job to assist you with helping you find those program recommendations, discuss what your goals are, your timeline of like when you want to attend a rotation, when you're planning to match, and just kind of help figure out, what exactly it's going to, best suit depending on your specific situation. We also help you with a lot of the initial questions, any concerns that you have, and just assist you with any reservations as well. We are available through multiple different channels. I did post in the chat a link to even schedule a call. It is free. This is actually free advising. You don't have to pay for any kind of support or question answering. You only pay for rotation at the very end. That's all you really need to do. But we are available through calls, email, and even WhatsApp as well. So if you did want to contact us, I did leave our information in the chat as well as on this slide here. So definitely take advantage of us. We are here to help you in that process. Now, when you do apply and reserve one of our rotations by submitting a payment for that rotation, you are going to get assigned to one of our coaches. And they do a lot of the same things that advisors do, but they really just focus on helping you with enrolling into the rotation. So that's going to help you with verifying your documents that you upload, helping you find accommodations. They are the ones that help you with like your visa applications and the interviewing process. They also host an orientation as well. Um, they do, enrolling does take time. That's also another reason why we suggest, reserving at least 6 months in advance, just so that you have time to, get all the kind of preparations done with the coach's help. They are there to help you, but it's ultimately your responsibility to get all these things completed for yourself, just so that you can attend on time. Now, there is also a list of documents that you have to upload in order to attend the rotation. This is probably what's going to take you the longest when it comes to enrolling. So why it does take maybe a couple months just to slowly get everything kind of uploaded. Um, I'd say the biggest one that's going to take the most time is the immunizations. There is an AMO immunization form that you can download directly from your documents tab. This one you have to schedule like a doctor's visit and have them complete the form and stamp it, sign it, and re-upload it back to your AMO account. Some of the other documents include like your CV, if you're a student, a dean's letter, if you're a graduate, a diploma, um, proof of English proficiency, that you can always schedule a call to get that waived. And then some rotations may require malpractice insurance or health insurance, even a visa as well. So that is something that, it might not look like it's a lot, but it does take time to get done. So it's always best to start the process as soon as you can. Now, you don't need to upload these in order to actually apply for a rotation or even reserve, but it is something that you have to upload in order to actually attend. So I would suggest maybe having at least your CV uploaded, maybe even, a dean's letter or diploma, but it's not necessarily required, but it will help process your applications that much quicker if you have some of your documents already uploaded there. Now, I do want to take this time to quickly go through the site and just show you how it actually works. Um, I don't know if not everybody here has already made an account, but it is easy to sign up. It is actually free to sign up. So first thing you do is, create your account. You should have received a link when you signed up for this webinar, and it's gonna, show you how to, confirm your account. You can create your profile with your list of specialties, and that's gonna start, allowing you to start browsing the different rotations that we offer. So you can see exactly, what are the rotations that you're going to be able to apply for once you create your profile. So let me take you to the site now. All right, everybody should be able to see my new screen now with the site here. But if anybody has already made an account, this is going to look very familiar with you. So when you do sign up, this is what you'll see. Um, Here you'll see a lot of the different kind of rotations off the bat, but I always recommend using the filters that are going to help you kind of narrow down the field of different rotations that we offer. Currently, we have 330 different rotations available, so it is a lot. So it is really good to use the filters to kind of condense that list, just so that you have a smaller kind of place to work at. So let's go through the different filters here. First one is going to be really going over those medical specialties. We have over 70 plus different specialties to choose from. So you really have a lot of options that you can decide between, from internal medicine, neurology, OBGYN, dermatology, plastics. So you're really going to see a lot of different types of rotations that are available based on the specialties listed in the match. Now, you can also search by location. We offer by state if you want it to be a little bit more general, maybe like a region that you want it to be in. And then we also offer by city. This is probably going to be really kind of narrow results. So I always recommend using the states first and then narrow it down to city after that. And then we also offer tags. These are going to be very unique. So these are really going to help narrow down exactly the type of rotation you may want to do. So if you are looking for, say, a hospital program, maybe a program that's good for groups of more than one, if you wanted inpatient exposure, if you wanted research, university programs, anything that's kind of very unique, this is probably going to be the best place that you can look for a clinical rotation. And then if you needed a better idea of what the tags really mean and what they offer, there is a little indicator here, an icon that will bring you a list of the list and the details of what the tag actually means. And after that, we do offer rotation types. So we do offer, for like the in-person rotations, we have hands-on, observership options, we have research. And then for the virtual ones, we do offer virtual rotations as well. For those that, maybe are having a hard time with traveling, maybe the cost of housing is too high and you want to save a little bit money, or maybe you just can't get a visa. These are probably going to be a good option for you, but if you have the opportunity to come in person, I always tend to recommend that too. But I'd say if you can do both in person and virtual, that's going to really help you there. And then, of course, lastly, we have the monthly availability. All of our rotations start on the first Monday of every month. We're 4 weeks long. And you can see here we have some last minute seats still available for July, but the deadline is coming up in less than a week here. So if you were looking for some last minute seats, you really don't have much time left. So definitely apply and reserve a seat. And then as you go down, you can see here, we do have availability up until May of 2025. So if you really wanted to kind of plan out your timeline of when to rotate, do the steps, and then match, this is going to be a good way of figuring out which programs you can apply for in that period. So let's actually go through a quick kind of demo of the site here. So let's keep it pretty general. We'll do internal medicine. Maybe I want a rotation in Florida, maybe something that's kind of warm. They have a lot of rotations there. I don't want to be, stuck in the winter time. And since I selected a state, I'll skip the city here, and then maybe I want a program with inpatient exposure. Maybe I want to go to a hospital as well as a clinic, just so that I have a well-rounded kind of exposure type. And then maybe I want to go for some time in December, but because it is warm here, that will help limit the options that I want to do. Um, so here we have about 7 different results, and you can see from each individual program, you can see quickly the title, where it's located, the price for those 4 weeks, and what type of rotations are offered. So I did fail to put that, so I will put hands-on. Say I'm a student, I want to do a hands-on rotation. It's going to still show me the same 7, but it's always good to narrow down that field. And when you click on a rotation, you're going to see all of the different details related to that rotation. So you can see here, based on the title, it's going to be an internal medicine rotation with a assistant professor from the University of South Florida College of Medicine. So you know it is going to be someone that is academically affiliated, someone that has a history of teaching and just understands how to better provide a clinical rotation to those that want to come. You can also see that it offers that inpatient and outpatient exposure type, it's catered to, and then also the different tags that might be associated with that program. You can see the price here, like I mentioned, this is going to be for those 4 weeks. And then also as you go down, you'll see all the different details related to that rotation. So as I mentioned, that this person is academically affiliated, so you're going to see that affiliation. You're also going to see their hospital affiliations, where do they go to, who are they related to? And so that kind of translates into like networking connections here. And then also the expectations. This is really going to explain to you exactly what are you going to be doing during this rotation. Since it is more internal medicine, it's going to be related to a lot of basic kind of understanding of medicine, how to, conduct patient interviews, diagnosis discussions, and then the physical examinations of a patient. Now, it does also list the exposure type. Since it is offering inpatient exposure, you are going to have access to both the clinic and the hospitals that are going to be listed just shortly down in the below. Also mentions who's it's best suited for. You can see it's available for medical students as well as graduates, how you would be evaluated. If there is any additional requirements, since this one does offer some hospital exposure, you might see some more paperwork here at the bottom, but it is something that you would complete after you reserve the rotation. This doesn't have to be completed beforehand. And then of course, at the bottom, you can see the schedule. The schedule is really accurate. This is given to us by the preceptor themselves. So you can see that this is a pretty full-time rotation from Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. So it is going to be a lot of full-time, working in those different centers, the sites that you get to go to. And in the map here, this is probably going to be your best friend when it comes to looking at the different information about the rotation. You can see the different sites that you would be traveling to. Here it also lists the name. So if you were curious of like, where am I going? This is going to be a good way of how to check that. And so you can see, you can zoom in if you've ever used like Google Maps or something like that. It's going to show you, where those rotations take place. And then if any previous, trainee has attended the rotation and has left a review, you can see that at the very bottom too. You can see that this is a pretty popular rotation, and it is one of our, I say, top internal medicine rotations. So you can see that a lot of people have attended and left some really great reviews here. So if I wanted to apply for this rotation, you go ahead and scroll to the very top. You select the type of rotation you want to do. As you can see, I want hands-on. If I want to select December, And you can see the latest available seat for this rotation is November. So it is fully booked for the next upcoming months. It only does offer 3 seats per month, and it's already been booked. So if anybody was interested for this rotation for the upcoming months, I'm afraid it is gone. But connect with an advisor. We can always help you find a different rotation that will help suit the rotation for this, or maybe a different rotation. So just keep that in mind, that these rotations are based on that first come, first serve system. So I did mention that I want to apply for December, and then you would just press apply now. And it's really that simple. I won't click it because I don't want to make an application under my name, but this is really how it's done. And then of course, if you wanted to start uploading any documents, you go up here to the documents tab, and you can go under, you can see what you've already uploaded here. This is some of the things that you would have to upload, like I showed earlier before, and then where you would upload those documents are going to be up here. So personal documents is where you're going to upload majority of the information that you have to submit here. So it is fairly simple, very easy, user-friendly. But if you, of course, if you did have any questions, or if you needed help finding a rotation, just let your advisor know, and we're more than happy to kind of walk you through the different rotations that you're interested in. So let me actually go back to the presentation. And just to kind of wrap everything up here for this presentation here, I just want to let everybody know kind of like the 3 different points that I like to let everybody know. For one, your seat is going to be guaranteed placement, whether you have applied for rotation. As long as you are the first one to submit your deposit or payment, that seat is going to be guaranteed yours. So you don't have to wait. You're either going to get the seat or you don't. So that is going to be really different compared to other systems that maybe you have to apply or even pay to apply. But here, it's free to apply. Once you pay that deposit, that seat is going to be yours. Secondly, you are going to get that one-on-one world-class support from your advisor, from a coach. So you're always going to have someone here to really help you with the process, whether that's coaching on like the visa process, finding housing, your documents. Normally if you applied for rotation on your own, you would have to do all of that on your own as well. But through AMO, we assist you with that entire process just to make it a little bit easier for yourself. And then of course, the last third one is just really standing out in that match. As I mentioned before, about 80.6% of individuals that have attended a U.S. Clinic rotation through AMO was able to match. So if that is your ultimate goal, attending a rotation through AMO is going to really help you achieve that and earn that strong merit-based letter of recommendation. So now that we are kind of at the end here, it really is now time to start opening up the Q&A section for some of those questions that maybe some of the individuals have for me as well. So let me stop sharing my screen. So I did see a couple questions, and I will actually start with the chat here. I did see a couple questions come in, and of course, if you have more questions, leave them in the Q&A, and we will go from there. Now, I did see one question say, I want to enroll for a virtual rotation. What are the required documents? I'm an older graduate, internist from Germany, doing rotation in LOR just to make my chances higher for matching. So really, like I kind of showed through that demo, you just have to search for those virtual rotations and you can start applying. The documents is going to be in the documents tab, and that will show you exactly what you need to upload there. Because it is a virtual rotation, you don't have to upload kind of every standard document. So that doesn't include like your visa, immunizations, or health insurance. You really just need to focus on some of the other ones like your CV, your diploma, your passport. So really a lot of kind of the simple documents there. So someone asked, can we get access to the recording? Yes, I already mentioned it in the beginning of the webinar. For those that have attended, you are going to get a copy of this recording, and also if you just signed up. So if you're here, you're going to get it. Thank you, Ukama, for mentioning it in the chat. I just read that after. I appreciate it. So someone also asked, are virtual rotation letters of recommendation equivalent value to the match program compared to hands-on and in-person rotations? Absolutely. The letters from a virtual rotation are not any different from a in-person rotation. They don't even mention that it's a virtual rotation at all. And that is something that you can discuss with the doctor that you're assigned to, because they do tailor that letter. So if you did want to, like, say, not mention it was virtual, because a lot of the type of practice that you do is the same thing that you would do in person, like, patient discussions and examinations. You can all do that virtually too, even taking patient histories and notes. So a lot of the same activities are going to be the exact same. And just kind of strengthen my message, we have seen individuals match with just attending virtual rotations. Now, I do want to fully make sure that not every rotation is done virtually. So this really is going to depend on the specialty that you're interested in. So this is going to be more applying to more of those kind of general care practices, patient-focused rotations. So some rotations like dermatology or orthopedics, like that doesn't translate well into a virtual rotation. So you're not going to see much options for those, but this is going to be more for those general care practices. Now, I do see another question about, is it possible to do a hands-on rotation as a graduate, or is it necessary to be a student in order to apply? This is really going to depend, Catherine, on where you're actually from. Technically, yes, graduates can apply for a hands-on rotation if they either have a visa, if they have an ESDA from like a visa waiver country, or you're a U.S. citizen. So if you don't have those, you may not be able to do a hands-on rotation for your first rotation. We do recommend doing at least an observership. And this is because a lot of the US embassies have been denying graduates applying for a hands-on rotation to get their visa. It's kind of a weird clause, but they do allow students to be able to get those hands-on rotations with a visa, but for graduates, it's not included. So we have seen a lot of denials. So we want to make sure that you are not going to get denied. So that's why we always recommend as a graduate to do a observership first, and then possibly a hands-on rotation after that. But of course, this is really going to depend on your specific personal information. So I did see another question. What will happen to our deposit if we aren't given a visa in time or get rejected? So if you do get denied the visa, or you can't get in time depending on your timeline, that's why I always recommend check the visa wait times before you apply. Because if you don't check it and you find out it's a year after you plan to attend, that's really going to be on you. But if you do get rejected or you can't get in time, we can always postpone your rotation for a later date. It is free to postpone if you aren't able to get that visa in time or you're rejected. Depending on why you were rejected, we'll try to submit some supporting documents just so that you have time to really attend a rotation in the future. So you don't lose out on your money or a rotation. We will always make sure that you do get that rotation. So somebody asked if there's any scholarship or financial support for these rotations. So unfortunately, we do not. You do have to pay in order to attend these rotations. So do keep that in mind. But if you are on a tight budget, maybe a virtual rotation will be a good fit, because then you don't have to worry about maybe getting housing or worry about flights and food. Now, Mark asks, if I have an opportunity to do only 1 month in the US, will one letter of recommendation be enough to match? Um, well, Mark, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you only have one experience in the US, your chances of matching are going to be very slim. They expect to have at least 3 to 4 letters of recommendation from US physicians. So that kind of translates to at least 3 to 4 months of rotations in the US in order to apply for the match. Now, you can use LORs from, different countries or, wherever you're from, but they generally aren't looked at. So I would definitely suggest, if you have the time, or at least, you know, expand maybe to possibly matching next year, just so that you have enough experience in order to actually have a chance of matching. Now, I do see a lot of questions in the chat, so please, if you can pop them in the Q&A, it's going to make it easier for me to actually read those. That would be really convenient for me. I do see some in the Q&A, so I'm actually going to jump a little bit to those because I want to make sure that I touch upon those as well. But I will go back to the chat. Just I see a lot of questions, which is good. So I do see a question. A lot of cases, let's see. So somebody asked about the visa, if they would get a full refund. So I did mention earlier, the best we can do is actually postpone your rotation for a later date. If you're planning on applying for the match, there's really no reason why you would just, decide not to attend or even reapply. So it is best to just postpone it for when you are able to come again, and we will provide you the supporting documents in order for that process. If we do a rotation in one field but applied to match in another field, for example, if we do a rotation in cardiology but applied to peds, does that impact our chances of matching? So really, ideally, you want to apply for whatever specialty with the letters that you received in that specialty. So really, I'd say peds and cardiology, you have to kind of explain that it's related to that field. So if it's not related, it's really not going to be beneficial. You're kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you don't actually use the letters from that specific specialty. So like if you're applying for cardiology to peds, it might not do very well unless it was a cardiology peds rotation, then it would apply. But if you're not seeing children, it's really not going to be helpful there. And we do have pediatric cardiology rotations. So if you really want to do both, we do have rotations related to that. Now, another question, they asked about the documents that I mentioned before. Is that needed to get a clinic rotation, or only through AMO, or when we apply to the US clinic rotations, regardless of the agency we use? So really, this is going to apply just for AMO. Other agencies might require different things. I'd say it's relatively going to be the same, but it would vary. I don't speak for other agencies, so I can't exactly say what they do, but I can only mention what we do here at AMO. So I hope that answers that question. Now, another question about what immunizations are required. Really, I'd say it's going to be a lot of the standard immunizations, rubella, MMR, trying to think off the top of my head, TTAP, kind of the things that you received as a child. That's going to be what is required. You can download the immunization form from the documents tab, so that's going to be the best place to find that. And you don't have to complete the form. It's going to be for your doctor. Now, I do see another question. I'm sitting for step 1 this December. So should I start doing rotation now or after, because I have to travel? Well, if you're going to do a rotation, or sorry, a step one in December, you're probably going to want to take this time to study for it. Um, Focus the time on studying just so that you have a passing score in your first try. Then later on, you can focus on doing those rotations. Because if you're already scheduling a step one or step two, really you should focus on taking those exams and then do the rotations after. Unless you don't have time after, then you can do it beforehand. But it's really depending on what is the most convenient for you. Now, someone also asked, can I do a rotation on an H-4 visa? If you're already in the US on an H-4 visa, it should be okay. If you're in a different country and you're applying, like say traveling to the US, and say you're attending a rotation on an H-4 visa, then you'll most likely get denied at that station. But if you're already here, it should be fine because you can freely travel, throughout the US. Now, Neha asked, do we have to complete the steps in order to apply for a research or virtual rotation? Are there options for a remote virtual opportunity? Um, Really, you don't need the USMLE step scores in order to apply for rotations. I think there's probably maybe only mm, 5 or 6 rotations that may require a USMLE step one in order to attend. It's always going to be mentioned in the description, but I don't believe that applies to any of the virtual research or virtual rotations. So you shouldn't have a problem there. Pratima asked, can we be granted an invitation letter from the rotation which we can show our visa interview? Yes, we do provide a visa invitation letter to use for your interview. You first do have to reserve a rotation as well as um, upload like your dean's letter if you're a student or a graduate, your diploma, and you have to schedule an interview beforehand. Once you do those things, you'll be able to request a visa invitation letter. Now, someone asked, what are the states or cities you suggest for IMGs to do rotations that have higher chances for matching? Well, really, it depends on what are you looking for. We have rotations in most states and a lot of different cities. That doesn't mean that every specialty is there, but it's really going to depend on, where, the rotation is and what it is. It doesn't really matter where the rotation, I'd say. It depends more on who you're doing a rotation with, who's the doctor, who are they affiliated to. That's going to be more important than actually where you do the rotation. So Favor asked, if you need 2 letters of recommendation in a specialty, say OBGYN, does that mean that you have to do 2 OBGYN rotations? Yes. You can earn at least 1 letter per rotation because you're normally going to be assigned to one doctor. So you can't ask for a second rotation, or sorry, second letter if there isn't a second doctor there. So really expect 1 letter per rotation. And then if you need 3 to 4 rotations, for those 3 to 4 letters of recommendation, that's really going to be the bill that you have to use. Ani asks, when is the best time to apply for rotation? Is it after passing step one or step two USMLE? Really, there's no way of doing it. It's going to be how convenient it is for you. Some people maybe do the steps first and then apply for rotations after, just so that they get those exams out of the way. Maybe you're not that set on the US just yet, and you're just curious, like, you want to test the water, see if this is something that you want to apply for. Then maybe you should do a rotation first just to see how it is, and then if you want to pursue the US, then you can do your steps after that. So really, it just depends on, like, when can I travel, when can I actually study for the steps, and actually take them. It really depends on what you want. So somebody asked, which states have dermatology rotations? Well, if you have signed up and created your account, you'll be able to see where those rotations are. We do have them in multiple states, Florida, New York, Illinois. Um, Really, the best way to look is by signing up and looking on your own. But of course, if you did need a recommendation based on where they are, we're more than happy to work with you. So another question, what common visa problems do IMGs frequently encounter when applying for the US clinical experiences, and how can we plan ahead? Really, the biggest problem is just the wait times. If you aren't aware what the wait times are, you should look, just to see when you can actually, attend an interview and actually, rotate in the US. It's probably going to be the biggest issue. And then also, making sure that your intentions are clear. The interviewee is going to ask you a lot of interview questions, making sure that what you're doing is actually what you're planning to do. So making sure that you're saying the right things and explaining exactly what your intentions are. Now, somebody asked, you mentioned that program directors won't be able to see if the rotation was virtual or not. Um, Is it possible to receive all three letters of recommendation from three virtual rotations? Yes, absolutely. Doesn't matter what rotation you do, as long as the rotation is based in the US, you can use that letter of recommendation to apply for the match. Someone also asked, does a low score in steps affect our chance to get matched? Well, of course it does. The step one, because it is pass fail now, if you have a passing score, that's great on your first try. But if you have a low step two CK score, that is definitely going to affect your chances of matching, because now they are going to start focusing more on the step two, because it is a numerical score. They're going to focus more on, do you have a good score or not? So if you don't pass your step one on the first try, you best bet you want to get a really strong high score on the step two, because that is ultimately going to affect, can you get interviews? Can you match into a program? These are also great questions, by the way. um, I'm going to try and get through them all, but if I don't, you can also email us directly these questions, because I know we have about 10 minutes. And I want to make sure everybody, does take, their own time to, focus on what they need to do. So I will quickly get through all these. Let's see, what do you think are the chances of an IMG working in the UK to match dermatology with all the steps done and no US clinical experience? Um, well, really, dermatology is a very, very difficult specialty to match into. It's very competitive. If you've done all your USMLE steps, but you don't have any US clinical experience, there's there's really no chance of matching into dermatology. You need at least a minimum of 4 rotations, and then you also should get some research in dermatology as well. If you don't have at least those minimum things, you're really not going to have a chance of matching. So I know that's kind of like the bare truth, but I'd rather be honest with everybody here than kind of, lie or kind of misinform everybody. So I want to speak the truth. So I would say focus on getting the US clinical experience that you can, just so you do have a chance of matching into dermatology. See, I am doing a 4th year clinical rotation in Jamaica, graduating in 2024. I still don't really have proper publications. How does AMO help with research? So we do offer research rotations. Some of them are in person, some of them are virtual. They do, provide you kind of info and kind of get your foot in the door how to do research and maybe set you up with, doing your own kind of research project. Some of the virtual research rotations do offer a guarantee of publication. So if were missing out on any publications and you really need this for the specialty that you're interested in, definitely check out those virtual research rotations. Those are, I believe, are going to really help you with what you're looking for. Another question, as a Canadian citizen, what are the documents required for me to do a clinical rotation in the US? It's going to be the exact same as anybody else. I'd say the only difference is that you don't need a visa as a Canadian citizen. You can just freely travel to the US with your passport. Um, so that's going to be the same. But of course, if you need to check out what those documents are, just go to the documents tab of your account and you'll see the full list of what you need to submit. Someone asks, are the rotations specific only to the certain department I am interested in? Well, yes, they are going to be specific on the specialty that is offered. So if you are in an OBGYN rotation, that's all you're going to see. If you want to do general surgery, then you would have to do a general surgery rotation. They are going to be based on the matching residency programs. So all the rotations you see are going to fit any of those bills. So I'm going to ask, how many letters of recommendation do you need for OBGYN? At least 3 to 4 is going to be the minimum here. You can always do more rotations, but you can only apply with 3 to 4 letters of recommendation. Here's actually a good question. What would be more helpful for matching in an internal medicine program, research or multiple clinical rotations? I would say, this is really going to depend on the specialty, but specifically for internal medicine, more clinical rotations is going to be more helpful in this case because that's more of a general care practice. So you do want to practice more of your clinical skills. Some of the more specific kind of specialties like dermatology, OBGYN, surgery, those you would want to use a little bit more research on. Of course, I'd say if you have an opportunity to do both clinical rotations and research, that's always going to help everybody. Research, I like to say, is like a cherry on top for every kind of application you submit. So definitely if you have the chance to do both, but if you really only have a limited number of time for internal medicine, focus on just clinical rotations. So somebody asked, my med school is asking for the curriculum for what I would be doing for an OBGYN rotation. Where can I get that on the AMO site? So as I went through the demo, you can see all the details related to the rotation, what the expectations are, where it takes place. That's probably going to be best fit for your curriculum. But if you are, it sounds like you are doing this for an elective credit. So if you haven't already, please contact your AMO advisor just to make sure that the rotation you're doing is going to fulfill those credit. We have seen people in the past reserve a rotation and not discuss with us exactly what their needs are, and they, kind of have a bad time because they have to find a different rotation that will fit. So make sure you discuss that with us beforehand. But of course, all the information related to every rotation is going to be found in the descriptions. Is research a requirement for the match? It is not. They really, only require letters from a clinical rotation. But like I said, research is going to be considered a cherry on top. And someone also asked how, I wonder how that virtual rotation would be like. So we offer 2 different types of virtual rotations. We have that are patient focused. Really, a lot of it is like how we're talking now. Pretend I'm a patient. You're asking me what's wrong. What, like, am I sick? I would discuss my symptoms with you. You would take patient histories and notes, discuss like, what I could do. Maybe it's a standard checkup that you just ask, how I'm doing and everything. That would be a lot of what a patient-focused rotation would be like. Um, we also offer virtual research and education programs. Those are going to be, not patient focused. So it's going to be a lot of lectures, maybe didactic learning, quizzes, really research on your own time. So that's going to be the two biggest things. But virtual rotations are really like how you practice your standard medicine. There's just a screen in front of you. Now I'm looking through all the questions here. I'm going to dismiss the questions that I have already answered just because we only have a few minutes left and I want to make sure everybody does get their time here. So I'm trying to quickly go through these. Here's a good question. Could the AMO coaches help us with information regarding requirements for the particular department we want to match into? Um, I would say, that really depends on what type of requirements you're talking about. Um, if you're planning on, matching to a specific, residency program and they have things that you need, we can always kind of help you walk through that process. But we also do partner with a different organization called IMG Match. They are a consultancy firm. We've actually had another doctor of ours, Dr. Samuel Lin. He actually hosts one of our virtual research programs for Harvard, and he does work with this firm called IMG Match that does help a lot of IMGs with matching. So let me I will share a link to his website. So if you did have more questions about like the matching process, maybe you need like more guidance on how that works, I will post it in the chat here. And same thing with him, you can schedule like a free consulting call, and he's going to help a lot with those that are looking to match into residency. So another good question. You said minimum 4 months of rotations required. So, is this for the letter of recommendation? Yeah. So if you need 3 to 4 rotations to get those 3 to 4 letters of recommendation, that's going to be the expectation. For research, will you have to do extra rotations? Yes and no. Really, there are rotations that offer both hands-on rotations as well as research on the side. So if you wanted to do both, you technically can do that. The doctors like to kind of see, extra steps being taken, but we do have some that are specifically on research themselves. So it would be considered extra, but that's really, like I said, the bare minimum. If you think you can successfully match by doing the bare minimum, you're really going to have a hard time doing that compared to maybe some US IMGs that have a lot of clinical rotations under their belt. So you should take the extra time to do as many rotations as you can, just so that you have the best time of matching. So I do unfortunately have to let everybody know that we are out of time. But if I wasn't able to answer everyone's question, I apologize for that. These were really great questions. But if you can, please email us directly any of your questions. If you want to schedule a personal call to discuss any of these questions as well, we're more than happy to do that. I will share in the chat here again the link to do all of that if you want to connect with us or email us. It's going to be the best way to do that. So thank you again for showing up and attending the rotation throughout. I did see a large number on here, so I'm really happy to see everybody here. And again, if I wasn't able to answer your questions, please email us. So thank you. You guys, everybody have a great rest of your day or night. And thank you again. So bye-bye for now. Appreciate it.